Good afternoon. Now we are here with the legendary Joe Gilles. Joe Gilles has been a mortgage banker for 35 years. He started very young at the age of 18. So you do the numbers. You agree with me, Joe?
Yes.
And I want to talk to you, Joe, about not only the amount of years that you have been in the real estate business, but what you have seen. You know, the real estate business, many people say, is cyclical. And I could say that probably the productivity span or the lifespan of a real estate agent could also be cyclical. What, in your opinion, controls this cycle? And how can real estate agents beat the odds so that they do not become a casualty when the real estate business changes? Like, for example, you know that in 6 months ago, there was a National Association of Realtors settlement that many realtors are failing to interpret properly, take advantage of it to the benefit of the industry, and in essence has pushed a lot of people out of the business.
No, absolutely. As with most industries, there are cycles. I've seen a lot of realtors in my time come and go. One of the big reasons for the casualties is they don't adapt to change. Okay? There's always going to be change. You have to embrace change. You have to deal with the change. And that'll help a realtor be successful, but most do not make it more than 5 years.
Do you think that it is because of them, because of their circumstances, or because real estate brokers, you know, I was having a conversation just a few minutes ago where I was saying, real estate brokers, they build these teams, they build these real estate companies, but they do not understand what the responsibility is. The responsibility, at least in my book, is wake up early, show up, lead your team, answer questions, answer to phone calls, coach, cross-coach, lead, and make your agents more productive by virtue of the empowerment of this real estate agent.
And dress for success.
And dress for success, definitely.
No, definitely. You got to put in the time, without a doubt. Now, I know a lot of realtors in my 30 plus years, and a lot of them are working for companies that don't offer support. They're promising a certain split, but there's no training. Most people end up leaving that situation to go to a place that has very good training. Like, as far as your office, it probably has the best training of anybody that I know. And I think that's a big reason for your success.
And because, you know, people are looking for that. You know, I was using as an example, if you can take the best soccer players from different teams, Real Madrid, Barcelona, United States, Germany, and you assemble the best players into a team, if they don't have a good coach, they're not going to make it. But those are the best players anyway. Many people may ask, what's going on? Why are they underperforming? Well, the problem is not that the players are not performing, is the players are not being properly coached.
Absolutely. Even superstars have coaches. I have a coach. So it's critical that the coach is setting up the players for success and the realtors. And I know you do a very good job with that.
Well, I love doing that. You know, I was in Spain recently with my family, and we went to this nice restaurant with my wife, my kids, family members of my wife, and I put my cellular on the table. One of my wife's cousins looked at my wife and asked her to take my cell off the table. My wife said, no, I cannot touch his cell because if he gets any phone call, he immediately answers. It could be one of his agents. So my wife's cousin asked her, is he always like that? She said, always. He always answers any phone call of any of his agents. And my answer to that is, I don't want this vacation or this lunch or dinner to be one of the most expensive by virtue of losing a real estate transaction because I didn't make myself available to answer a question or coach one of my agents. I always say this, Joe. Anytime that someone calls me for looking for an answer, it gives me an opportunity not only to answer the question, but to coach. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, some people think it's not productive to take every call if you're busy doing something, but you have shown that, I can get you anytime I call you.
Yeah.
And most of the time you can get me.
And sometimes when I don't answer or you don't answer, I call you back or you call me back,
Absolutely.
which is important. I understand that sometimes you may be in the middle of something
Right.
that prevents you from taking that particular phone call. Now, you, Joe, have been in the business 30 plus years, right?
Right.
And I want to talk to you about the real estate market of today versus the real estate market before 2007, the collapse of the economy.
Well, that was a very hard time for most people, mortgage companies, real estate companies. It's a bit different now. And I really like the way you have embraced social media. No one else is doing that I know of, not to that extent. Some people try to do it, but you really have your finger on the pulse. You've adapted to the change, and you stay relevant.
That is actually what someone was telling me the other day. But it is also very important to maintain a degree of consistency. You know, an idea is not a good idea unless you are consistent with that idea. I always tell people, look, your productivity is going to be predicated not on the amount of years that you've been in the real estate business, but how consistent you are. And I have always been consistent because I understand the importance of and the meaning of the word consistency.
Consistency, like discipline. You have to have both. You have to be consistent with your plan. You have to have goals, written down goals. You have to follow the goals. You have to be consistent. You have to have perseverance.
Do you think that there is any other business where you can make the money that you can make in real estate?
Real estate is the best kept secret. It's sales, but it's a happy sales.
But I have to tell you one thing. Everything is sales. When you speak with your wife and you're trying to persuade her to do something, or let's go to this place instead of that place, you have to sell. When you speak with your kids, you're selling. When you're communicating your message to someone, you're selling. You're not only conveying a message, but you are in the process of selling. In the real estate business, you're not really selling, Joe. You are tour guiding people from one house to another house. They are already sold in the process of buying a house. You just have to sell them. You need to do it with me, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. Today's buyers need a certain amount of hand-holding. They are sold on the idea that they want a house. They want to envision themselves with their family in that house. That's what you need to portray. Give them that emotion, because they buy on emotion.
They buy, but since the real estate business is a business of emotions, I totally agree with you. People do not like to do business with weak people. And there are many real estate agents out there who are very weak. They don't talk, they don't communicate with the client in an articulate way, understanding, I'm going to talk to my client And I'm going to tell my client what my client needs to hear or not what my client wants to hear. They are afraid, they are weak, and then the realtor ends up losing. Although this business is a business of emotion, clients like to do business with strong-minded people.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of mediocrity in this business. A lot of people that don't produce, don't have the guidance, and that's why there's so much turnover.
What do you think is the percentage of mediocre real estate agents out there?
I would say certainly more than half.
What about 90%?
Well, that's more than half.
You know that 5% of realtors out there make 95% of the money? 5% of real estate agents make 95% of the commissions, and 95% of realtors out there are fighting for the crumbs that are left on the floor by the 5%.
That's mind-boggling. 95%. I didn't think it was that high.
Do you think that the real estate business is a mind business?
Yes.
Elaborate on that.
It's all in your mind. You're going to show houses to people. What I see a lot of people not doing is following up on these people. Don't just show them a house. You have to show them, find houses, and negotiate a good offer.
You know that happens in the mortgage business too. Many mortgage reps sit down with a buyer, pre-qualify the buyer, issue a letter of pre-qualification to the buyer, and at some point the buyer falls off the grid. And many of these loan officers who pre-qualify the buyer find out, I would say probably 30-40% of the income is lost because of lack of follow-up by the loan officer with the buyer. Hey, listen, I pre-qualified you last week. What's going on? How is your house search going? I always advise mortgage reps, follow up with the buyer. How are you doing? Are you looking at houses? Is your agent showing you houses? Of course, you have to ask these questions in a very prudent, discreet way, because you don't want the buyer to go and tell the real estate agent, I got a phone call from the loan officer asking me how you're performing. But if you don't follow up with the buyer that you sat down with a week ago and pre-qualified, that buyer is going to be lost. That buyer is going to go to another realtor. The realtor is going to switch the buyer to another banker, and you lost.
No, absolutely. Buyers nowadays are bombarded by programs, interest rates, realtors. Critical to have that human factor and stay in touch with the buyers.
It's important.
Absolutely.
Now, Joe Gilles from MLB Mortgage, I've been doing business with you since...
At least 30 years.
At least 30 years. I remember my first real estate transaction was with you, Joe.
Absolutely, yep.
And 30 years later, we're still doing business together.
Yes, I was handwriting the applications in those days.
I remember that. You're one of the best out there. Definitely, I would recommend any real estate agent who wants to have a steady level of productivity to do business with you and your bank.
No, absolutely. And I would recommend any realtor that has not found their way to talk to you.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.